Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of This Is Your Captain speaking. Today I have Juliana Méndez, who is a fractional CMO and VP of Growth and advisor for B2B SaaS companies. Juliana has 6 years of experience as a fractional CMO. So for people that are listening that don't know what a fractional CMO is, it is basically a part-time CMO that works across a number of different brands. If you don't know what a CMO is the Chief Marketing Officer. But being a fractional leader, it enables you to get numerous experience across a number of different companies all at once. You give a fraction of your time, hence the word fractional. And she's worked at companies such as Allianz Europe, Lanes and Planes, Casafari, Madame Moneypenny, and Madame Moneypenny was one of the companies that we came across, and the person that reached out to you to do this podcast, also a big fan of Madame Moneypenny as well, just as a side note. But really great to have you on, Juliana. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Sure. So hey, let's talk a little bit about your experience. So let's talk first off about how you became a fractional CMO / fractional leader. How did it work for you? How did it happen?
So to be very honest, for me, it was like two things that played a role. One was I became a mother. So I was already working as a consultant before, and I was just a bit tired of all this networking and sales work. And I just realized as well that I don't really have the time to do that so much anymore. And that's why I decided maybe I really want to have more longer term projects. But at the same time, I didn't really want to have a full-time role. So I wanted to really check first, like, is the culture fitting? I wanted to see things through. And these were all reasons why I decided to try this. I didn't know really back then that it was called fractional or whatever you do this. I was just doing temporary leading of marketing teams or growth teams. So back then it wasn't really a term, to be honest, 6 years ago. I don't know, you're probably familiar with that, but yeah, this is how it started and I'm really enjoying it. I still do it. So yeah, that's how it all came.
Super interesting. I think you said before that you were a consultant, right?
Yes,
and I find
a consultant.
Yeah, so I find as well, so like I'm also a fractional CMO, right? So I don't like the word consultant. Like, so when people say to me, oh, you're a marketing consultant, I say, don't use the C word around me. That's a dirty word. You know, it's like consultant, because you mentioned one thing there that was, you said consultant and then you said, I actually wanted to move into more long-term projects. Consultant is very much in and out the door, give some advice, don't really help follow through on that advice. It's more to the existing team. That's how I see a consultant. Comes in, kicks over tables, and then runs away and doesn't necessarily help the team bring anything that they've recommended over the line. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. To me, it was really way more strategic short-term projects. And very often we built like great ideas and strategies, but we couldn't really see them through. So it was like, okay, so now what did they do with it? Did it work? So I felt like the learnings just didn't really flow back to me. And that's something I really wanted to know, though. So that's why I really like to be more involved. And if I create a strategy, I want to see if it works.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I find quite interesting about working with a couple of different organizations is the learnings that I can have and the speed of learning, right? Tell me a little bit about like how you find that. So I see like, okay, for myself, I'm like, I see this working at one specific organization and I think I can make that work at this particular organization. I already know what the benchmarks are. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I mention it as well when I'm talking to companies. I do have an accelerated learning process. I've led like 40 teams in the meantime as an advisor or a fractional lead. And for me, it means I got insights into a lot of different challenges, experiments, team structures, all that. And I can really draw from that depending on where I go and apply different learning. So yeah, it's really accelerated. And I also learned to just be faster because as a fractional, you know that as a fractional CMO, you come in and sometimes you're expected to do magic in no time. And you need to basically build trust in very short time. You need to learn to get to know the team, the product, everything in really short time. So that's something I really need to do fast when I'm coming in. And over time, related to the thing we said before, I'm building really a set of frameworks, templates, best practices that I can pull from. And that really helps me in the advisory work and in the fractional work to help people to be successful faster.
Do you just bring yourself in or do you have others that you bring in with you?
That's a good question. I'm working with a trusted team of people. I come usually by myself, but I pull them in depending on what's needed. So I have great technical marketers, PPC people, or designers that I'm trusting. And I almost wanted to put this on my page as well, that I'm offering a fractional team, because I see that I continuously need that, and people are really happy if I can work with someone who I trust, who fulfills the standards that I have. It's just faster sometimes as well.
100%. I also offer the same thing since almost a year, but it does add an additional layer of complexity, because then you also need to manage a team as well. Like, I think when you're by yourself, you don't need to worry about anybody else, right? That's the thing. When you start bringing other people in, you're essentially you're looking after their well-being and livelihood as well, right? So it's a challenge, but it's an interesting challenge nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, the people I'm working with, they're fully independent, so it really is, we call each other when we need each other, or if we find that something could work out. And then if it works, it works. If not, that's fine for everyone. And as a fractional CMO, I anyways need to lead the team. So then they're one more person in the team I'm responsible for making successful. So sure. That's how I see it.
Tell me a little bit about where your wheelhouse is. Like, what are you specialized in? So you've mentioned growth. Like I've seen before, that PLG is like product-led growth and product-led sales. They're things that you've mentioned as core focuses for you. Like, what makes you tick? Like, what is the thing when they say, hey, I need help with this, and it's like, okay, qualified. This is definitely a project that I want to work with.
Yeah, it has been really developing over the years. I came more from the classic marketing, top of funnel, demand gen side of things, and I developed more and more and more into the product direction as well. So not just considering top of the funnel, but really growth, and making sure that once you have a lead, once you're working with them, how do we make them activate? How do we make them stick to the product? How do we make sure that they monetize better? So over time, that became for me more and more important in my work and in the offering I'm doing. And many times this really boils down to also product marketing work. So I'm getting asked a lot to really help companies to evaluate if, for example, product-led growth, product-led sales is even for them, and help them define the use cases. So I'm not the typical PLG growth person that comes in and really accelerates it once it's implemented. It's a step before, and it kind of saves companies a lot of time and money and running in the wrong directions to really understand when it's for you and when it's not for you.
So just on that, tell me what your definition of product-led growth is, and which types of products fit well into that product-led growth strategy.
Yeah, so product-led growth is really once you are able to, with the product, to acquire, activate, and monetize users, and possibly also the buyers then in the next step, right? So for me, what I'm focusing really on is trying to understand, is a product developed in a way that they can activate and it fulfills a problem that the user has? So are they able to do it by themselves once they come in, or do they need help from someone? And do they have this problem? So of course, if we have several roles in the company and the user doesn't have a problem that the product is really solving, but it's solving for the buyer, that wouldn't be an ideal use case for product-led growth. Additionally, there's some considerations. For example, is this a dominant use case? Do you have already established some sort of focus journey that makes it an important use case for product-led growth? So is this, for example, driving more than 70% of your engagement in the product, this specific use case? Is it something that people are already happy with and satisfied with how the product works? And how much barriers do they really have when they are entering the product to be able to experience the value from it? So these are really the elements that I'm looking at. But there's other ones, for example, like how many users are there in the market? Is this a very niche product, or is this something where you're able to reach a big amount of people? Because if you want to go more in the product-led direction, you really need to be able to reach a big amount of users. Otherwise, it wouldn't work so well. So these are all things that we're looking at. Of course, there's also several situations that I encounter as well. If there's a really new product category, something that people don't know yet how to use or how to derive value from, I typically also recommend to start with a more sales-led approach until we learn from them how it really works, and until the user base really understands how to derive value from this product category. So it's not so easy to activate self-serve if you have never seen or heard of this category before. Yeah, these are some considerations that flow into this. And I do believe there's a lot of no's, much more than you would think. And companies need to be aware that instead of just jumping into this trend because everyone does it, that it's a really long and difficult process. Even more so if you have like also a sales-led motion established, and that you need to be sure that you can focus on something that really makes sense.
Fully agree. And like I've worked with a couple of companies, one particular company where they were early stage, right? They just received, was it Series A? They just got seed. I think they just had seed funding. And they were convinced that they were gonna run down this product-led approach, right? And I looked at like what they were trying to do, and they brought me in at a point where they were like, okay, like we're doing product-led growth, but we've also just hired 2 salespeople because we want to try to support that with some sales-led. Our product pricing right now is $28 per user. Our total addressable market is super small because it's a super niche product, and people, it's a pretty unique product. And I was like, this is just going to end. And like I was like looking at the revenue, I was like, how many signups are you bringing in a month? And the sign-up levels were dwindling. We're talking about 100 signups a month for $28 a month per user. I was like, there's no way that this business can continue in this way. So I was like, that $28 a month, let's completely scrap that. Let's go pure sales-led. Let's just focus on demand gen and then driving demand to the product. Because within that base of customers or prospects that you're going after, they're super receptive to what you have to offer, but you need to warm them up a little bit and you need to build a relationship, right? So like the problem that they were like listening to their investors, and the investor was like, you need to go product-led. You need to go product-led. Yes. That's the new hot shit. New hot shit. Quickly go product-led, right? And at the same time, like I was like, this makes no sense. And then we managed to triple the annual recurring revenue in 1 quarter just from completely flipping it, right? So it was just insane. So like another company that I've worked with as well, like they sell and let's call it upper tier mid-market to lower tier enterprise. So we're talking about annual recurring revenue of about 100K, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we need to go down more of a product-led growth approach. And I was like, I'm not sure you understand what product-led is, like, again, you're going after a niche or a smaller group of people, and they need to be brought in through the product. The product basically needs to be converting itself with that group. That's my understanding. The product itself needs to be converting them into customers just based on, as you said before, like this self-serve, right? Which is never going to be the case in such an expensive product. Like it's almost, I think, to do product-led growth at 100K ARR deals, annual recurring revenue deals, I think product-led growth, unless I'm missing something, is not really the right way.
I guess.
Would you agree?
I agree in the sense of very often these really big enterprise targeting enterprise market, you also have really different needs between the buyer and the user. So you need to have a lot of stakeholders in there. So they are not usually the users of the product. And it's much more difficult to really bring that all together. You will not necessarily just sell the product if the users in the company are using it. You need to really have a lift to the buyer and need to make sure that the problem of the buyer is aligned with the user. So if that is fully aligned, I would say there's a chance you can use it for expansion within the company, but not necessarily for acquisition in a product-led way. So
and also in the acquisition piece as well, you're also going to have like, you might have a team that's put in place to run like an RFP process, right? Which is like procurement. So a procurement team is not really going to be testing the product per se, right? They're going to get a marketing team, maybe, let's say it's a marketing product, right? The marketing team that are going to do their due diligence, look at, for example, Forrester reports, Magic Quadrants from Gartner. They might look at G2, Capterra, different things like that. They might get a demo or two of the product. But really, like when it boils down to it, the procurement teams are the ones that are doing the shortlist, and they're the ones that are really going to be making the decision in terms of which ones are then presented to the real decision makers, which is probably C-level, right? So
yeah, exactly. So it's not aligned, and then it's really hard to implement that. And to be very honest, very often then when I'm coming in, I see that these discussions around what are the use cases, what is the problem we're solving for different personas, is often not even fully clear. So very often we need to do a step back and really start at this product marketing level again to identify what is the main use case that could make sense. And not all the use cases of the company's product need to be product-led. Sometimes you can maybe as well just start with one use case for the product-led one and keep the other one separate sales-led. So we've done that with one company I've been working as well. One was really for SMB long tail market, and then parts of the product were really focusing specifically on more enterprise or partner deals. And they were left sales-led, and we separate them already in the sign-up form. Although maybe the initial value proposition was similar, depending on who they were able to test and use the product, or were led to sales straight.
Two different sales motions, one company. Oh, that's a nightmare as well. Like that, it sounds great, but at the same time, oh Jesus Christ! Sorry, you were going to say something.
It is complicated, absolutely. And that's why I prefer to really make sure from the start when I'm working with companies that they understand their use cases, understand the complexity it will bring, and then really decide, okay, what's an element we can start trying instead of just making it all product-led and we're all going to do that, and then it's going to be a big chaos. Sales is not on board and we'll just like not understand what it means for them, and there's going to be some clashes between the teams because of that, and we don't want that, right? So that would just slow everything down. So yeah, I guess invalidating PLG use cases is very, very important.
100%. And even with that double sales motion that you mentioned there, like the sales motion has been PLG plus SLG, so product-led growth and sales-led growth. If you're trying to run that like beside one another, you've essentially got two funnels, right? You've got two, for simplicity's sake, you have people that might be filling out a demo request form, and you've got people that might be falling into a free trial, right? Yes, so exactly. Like, or even to make it even more simple, or to show like the night and day of it all, you've got like a B2B model, like a very classic B2B sales model, which is the sales-led growth, and then you've got the product-led growth, which is very similar to a B2C model, where you're trying to get the mass in, and then here you're just trying to get really key decision makers in. So like you're essentially running two different styles of marketing within one marketing team, and that I've had that experience as well, working with customers where they're like, oh, we'll just get the one team to do it all. I'm like,
exactly. Doesn't work.
That's not going to work.
No.
You know, so.
And I think that is one part of the communication or conversations we're having for sure. Like if you have these different, if you want to do all these use cases because no one wants to, or people don't like to decide for one, then that means you need to do a different marketing. You need to really have a different sales approach. So you need to have dedicated sales people for the different motions. Even if you have a product-led use case, there is very often in B2B still a sales touch at some point needed, sometimes not needed, to really convert them, because maybe they're not all converting through the users, or there's an expansion opportunity. So you need to have different teams for all that, or different people, because otherwise it gets really messy and won't work, and that's a lot of work. Yes. So I help to decide as well, okay, which one should we do? Are you willing to do both of them really? Then you need to really release the resources for that as well.
Yeah, and at the same time, you need to also look at your pricing structure and making sure that you're not blowing customer acquisition costs by introducing sales touches when your product is super cheap, right? If you go too cheap, then your customer acquisition cost versus your lifetime value, or that efficiency metric, is going to be looking pretty horrendous. So I think what you just mentioned there works pretty nicely if you get your pricing right, whilst at the same time also automating it, in that smaller companies, or if you're putting everybody into a free trial motion, then smaller companies are being self-sustained, so they're looking after themselves, right? You go over a certain level, size of company, that then gets a sales touch, that goes into a touch workflow is what I would call it. And then sales are looking to get those ones over the line, but only when they get over a certain size, because then you're making sure that your efficiency metrics with that sales headcount is making sense, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they need to have a certain size. Otherwise, sales touch is not really worth it. I mean, I don't know what's your rule of thumbs you're working with, but if it's like below 5,000 annual revenue, I would say, like, not really worth a lot of sales touches. And that's what, we're trying to look at as well when we're defining the strategies. But yeah.
Great. I'm just looking at time, and we've really got into the weeds around product-led growth. So like, I'm super happy with that, because it's been really valuable, and we're after running out of time. So look, where can people find you, Juliana?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Juliana Méndez, and that's basically my main channel where you can reach me.
Perfect. Well, hey, look, it's been really great speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Likewise.
It's been great. And like, if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. And I'll make sure to share all your details also in the description of this. We'll share your bio, etc. So yeah, guys, this has been another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. We'll see you again next week for more great content. Juliana, thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.